Well, Nancy Pelosi, I would say that she did not. She felt like she wanted to condemn the anti-Semitic behavior of Congresswoman Omar, and so did Congressman Engel. So they're not anti-Semitic, and so did many people in the House. But instead, we got a whitewash condemning all bigotry and bad behavior, which we learned in first grade. It was a waste of time, a show vote with over 400 voting for it and a couple of dozen voting against it. Of course, that's not the chamber that Senator Bill Cassidy's in. The Republican out of Louisiana joins us now. Senator, welcome back. How do you feel about what the president said about the Democratic Party?
I think he's spot on. Under their big tent, if you will, they have folks who are anti-Semitic, and they don't want to kick them out of their tent, and so they come up with, as you said, a show vote, which somehow signals that, no, this is not really who we are, but it's who you tolerate.
It is, and I just think it's just amazing. Now, the Republicans have been told, well, you got to control the Tea Party a few years ago. You got to control the Freedom Caucus. We heard that. You know, whether you agree with them or not, that's where the Republicans had to deal with. Now, Nancy Pelosi seems stunned that she's got a handful of freshmen that are running the whole place.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the ironies, when Trump was running for president, the mainstream media attempted to say that he, for some reason, was anti-Jewish. When Ivanka is Jewish, his son-in-law Jared is Jewish. When I can go down the list, but everybody knows it. And now we have this, in which, oh, that's okay. They're passing a general. We don't like bigotry, and that's supposed to take care of it. There is a perception problem here on the behalf, on the behalf of the mainstream media.
Senator, you got a couple of things to get to, including something you want to talk about in the environment, but I want to get to what's happening at the border. Are you, like Senator Rand Paul, believe that the president's overstepping his bounds using emergency action at the border? Do you have a third way? Some have said he could find enough money to get us through September without using the emergency action.
A couple things. He does appear as if he could. There is an emergency at the border. There is an emergency at the border. We need to build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. Now, the second issue is how do you fund it? And he could fund it without taking money from the funds that he is taking from. He could actually fund it differently. And I think that's one of the debates going on in Congress. Now, the president has decided he wishes to do it this way. Frankly, the president's going to get the money. But there's kind of a healthy discussion taking place right now is do we have the mechanism set up exactly as they should be? So the president's going to get his money. We're going to build the wall, and there'll be a healthy discussion. So I think it's actually going in the right direction.
When you look at those visas for those first-round draft picks that we have at Stanford and some of the great colleges that want to stay here, these foreign students, when you look at the backups on green cards, when you look at these people who want work visas, there are so many things to work on that aren't politically polarizing when it comes to immigration reform. And now you're almost at full employment, and yet there's people unemployed in Central and South America that want to come here. It seems time for politicians in 2019 not to think about 2020. Has there been any talk about moving towards something comprehensive quickly?
I think comprehensive is a bridge too far, because keep in mind, in that big tent on the other side of the aisle, which again has folks who are apparently anti-Semitic, but it also has folks who want to abolish ICE. It has folks who wish to have open borders, who think there's a vested right for everybody, no matter where they live in the country, to move to the United States. So getting something comprehensive would require their cooperation. That's going to be a little bit of a, I'm not going to accept abolishing ICE.
Yeah, neither am I. And I just thought most of the leadership doesn't go with that. The fringe goes with that. And I would think if Senator Schumer was a real leader and Nancy Pelosi was a real leader, there might be a place to go forward, but maybe it isn't. Senator Rubio feels the same way as you. Senator, I want to bring you to the new Green Deal. You, first, are a Republican, like many, that don't believe the environment should be ignored, like Teddy Roosevelt, but you also don't believe our economy should be destroyed, like AOC. So what are you proposing with your white paper?
Yeah, so what we are proposing is that we actually make a difference in the environment and greenhouse gas emissions at the same time that we actually create more American jobs, make our economy stronger, and we don't end up strengthening economies such as China's. What we can see is under democratic policies, manufacturing jobs have moved to China. When they move to China, China uses dirty fuel. We don't. Global greenhouse gas emissions worsen, and those SOx and NOx that they emit on their Pacific coast blow across the Pacific Ocean and land on our Pacific states. that is bad for us. On the other hand, under what has happened with cheap natural gas, we have actually decreased our emissions since 1994. We've created jobs producing the natural gas, building the pipelines, and building the refineries. We're having reshoring of manufacturing, and global greenhouse gas emissions are better off. So we're proposing we continue down this pathway, taking more renewables into the mix, bringing manufacturing back, strengthening our economy. It's a better way to go as opposed to the Green New Deal, which does everything opposite and makes us weaker.
All right, and that's part of your subcommittee, right?
Yeah, I am the chair of that energy subcommittee, and it's something that I've been talking about for over a year now, and we recently put out a white paper just kind of proposing this. Make America great again, make the world environment better.
Well, that's interesting. So yesterday, we found out a couple of things. We know about how the president's being investigated. They sent out 80 requests for documents, and the 80 people are on this list, and including 2 of his sons. We also know that Paul Manafort was sentenced. And people are talking about him going to jail for life. Instead, he gets 42 months. Nothing to do with Russian collusion. Nothing to do with a Trump connection. What's your reaction to that? Because I want to let you hear what John Brennan said, the former CIA director. Cut 21.
Yeah, it's an extraordinarily lenient sentence in light of the extent and scope of Mr. Manafort's criminality. Just shows that there's a lot of power vested in the hands of judges. I think this sentence says a lot more about Judge Ellis than it does about Paul Manafort. That is just mind-boggling, why he would say that Paul Manafort had an otherwise blameless life. I mean, Paul Manafort has a demonstrated track record of criminal, unethical, unprincipled behavior.
In his mind, is this the beginning of the collapse of the collusion, or do you think this is a aberration?
I think it is the beginning of the collapse. Nothing was mentioned about collusion and Manafort's sentencing. The Democrats are on a fishing expedition, and they're coming up with minnows. And John Brennan's comments say more about John Brennan than they do about Paul Manafort. I'm not defending Paul Manafort. On the other hand, there's clearly nothing about collusion there. And to all of a sudden cast aspersions upon the judges, I thought Trump doing that was beyond the pale, and now we see Democrats doing it because they don't get the outcome they want. The reality is there's been no evidence of collusion, and until there is, I think we should just continue to withhold judgment.
Is there any hope of getting anything done with this split government?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I'm working on that the president has made a priority. The president clearly wants to have lower-priced drugs for the American people. And there's a lot of bipartisan work. It's going to have to be bipartisan, obviously. We're also trying to address surprise medical billing. The president has spoken about that. You get the bill, you can't believe it. What? That's how much that cost? We're trying to address that as well. I think that'll happen. And it'll happen because the president's made it a priority, but also because it's a bipartisan effort.
All right, so you understand, too, that Republicans, if they ignore health care again, will get pounded in 2020.
Totally. If you will, this administration has been about the kitchen table issue. How do we get a better job, better wages, better benefits? How do we keep manufacturing jobs growing as opposed to just writing them off? It's also about health care. That family, which hardly has any money saved, suddenly gets a bill. They can't believe it. Well, partly it's because their Obamacare policy has a $6,000 deductible. But it may also be because their insulin costs way too much. And I think that the Republican Congress, the president, have worked to make that health insurance more affordable, but also the health care that underlies it more affordable as well.
As a medical doctor, do you feel a special obligation to bridge the gap between politician and medical professional?
Totally. The health care is 20% of the GDP. I live my life taking care of patients who are uninsured for 25 years. If you will, I'm serving those patients by other means, by the means of making that health care and that health insurance more affordable, hopefully making them not uninsured, but actually insured.
Very true. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. I hope you have a great weekend.
You too, Brian. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Listen, when we come back.